Tim Jones was having the worst day of his life. He woke up late for work because his alarm did not go off. Then his boss yelled at him in front of everyone. Now he was walking home in the rain without an umbrella. His shoes were wet, his socks were wet, and he was very angry. Tim worked at a small office where he answered phones all day. He wanted a better job, but no one would hire him. Every time he went for an interview, they picked someone else. Today, his boss told him he was not working hard enough. Tim thought this was not fair. He worked harder than anyone else. The rain fell harder as Tim walked through the park. It was a shortcut to his small apartment. Not many people were around because of the bad weather. Tim kicked at puddles and mumbled angry words to himself. His phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a text from his girlfriend. She was breaking up with him. Tim threw his phone on the grass and shouted bad words at the sky. When he bent down to pick up his phone, he saw it had a crack across the screen. This made Tim even angrier. He picked up a stick and hit a nearby tree with it. The stick broke, and a piece hit him in the face. A small cut formed on his cheek. A drop of blood mixed with the rainwater on his face. "This day cannot get worse," Tim said out loud to no one. As Tim turned the corner on the path, he saw a man standing under a big umbrella. The man was very tall and wore an expensive-looking coat. Next to the man was a small dog. The dog was not on a leash. It was a white, fluffy dog that looked very clean despite the muddy park. The dog ran up to Tim and jumped at his legs. Its paws left muddy marks on Tim's only good pair of work pants. Without thinking, Tim kicked out his foot. He did not kick hard, but it was enough to make the dog yelp and fall to the side. "Hey," the man with the umbrella shouted, "what do you think you're doing to my dog?" Tim looked up and felt his stomach drop. He knew that face. Everyone knew that face. It was Carlos "the Mountain" Rodriguez, the famous MMA fighter who had won the world championship 3 times. His face was on billboards, TV commercials, and sports magazines. He was known for knocking out opponents in seconds. Carlos was a huge man with muscles that seemed too big to be real. His hands looked like they could crush a coconut. And now, those hands were making fists as he walked toward Tim. I'm sorry," Tim said, backing away. "The dog jumped on me and got mud on my pants. It was just a reaction. I didn't mean to hurt it." Carlos bent down to check on his dog. The small white fluff ball seemed fine but was hiding behind its owner's legs. Carlos stood back up to his full height, towering over Tim. "You kicked my dog," Carlos said in a deep, calm voice that was somehow more scary than if he had been yelling. "Do you know who I am?" Tim nodded, his whole body shaking now. Rain dripped down his face. He could not tell if he was more wet from the rain or from his own sweat. "Yes, sir. You're Carlos Rodriguez." Carlos stepped closer. His shadow fell over Tim like a dark cloud. "And do you know what happens to people who hurt things I love?" Tim shook his head. His day had just gotten much, much worse. Tim stood frozen as rain poured down. Carlos, "the Mountain" Rodriguez, was only 2 steps away now. Tim had seen this man knock people out with one punch on TV. He closed his eyes, waiting for pain. But the punch never came. "Open your eyes," Carlos said. Tim slowly opened his eyes. Carlos had pulled out his phone and was pointing it at Tim's face. "What's your name?" Carlos asked. "Tim Jones," Tim said, his voice shaking. "Well, Tim Jones, I want everyone to see what kind of man kicks a small dog," Carlos said as he started recording a video. "Tell the camera what you just did." Tim's face went red with shame. People were starting to gather around them now. Some had recognized Carlos and were taking out their own phones to record. I kicked his dog," Tim said to the camera. "I was having a bad day, and I took it out on an innocent animal. I'm sorry." Carlos turned the camera to show his dog, who was now sitting by his feet, still looking scared. "This is Princess. She's 3 years old and has never hurt anyone," Carlos said. "She got rescued from a bad home where people hit her, It took me 6 months to make her trust people again. Tim felt sick. He hadn't known any of this. He just reacted without thinking. I didn't know, Tim said. I'm really sorry. Sorry doesn't fix things, Carlos said. He put his phone away and picked up Princess, holding her close. Where do you work, Tim Jones? Tim didn't want to answer, but with so many people watching, he felt he had no choice. Jackson's Office Supplies on Main Street, Tim said. Carlos nodded. I'm not going to hit you. That would make me no better than you. Violence isn't the answer to violence. His words surprised everyone listening. But actions have consequences. A woman in the crowd shouted, That's right. What kind of monster kicks a dog? Others joined in, calling Tim names. Someone threw an empty coffee cup that hit Tim in the shoulder. Stop, Carlos said to the crowd. His voice was calm but firm. Everyone went quiet. I don't want anyone hurting him. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Carlos looked back at Tim. I'm going to post this video. People should know what you did. Maybe your boss will see it. Maybe your friends and family will see it. Maybe you'll learn something from it. Tim's mind raced. If that video got out, he could lose his job. His parents would be ashamed. Everyone would know what he had done. Please, Tim begged, don't post the video. I said I'm sorry. What can I do to make this right? Carlos thought for a moment. Princess had stopped shaking and was now licking his hand. Come to the animal shelter on Oak Street tomorrow at 9 a.m. I volunteer there on Saturdays. Show me you're really sorry by helping the animals. I will, Tim said quickly. I promise. Carlos put Princess down on the ground and put a leash on her. If you don't show up, the video goes online. He turned and walked away, leaving Tim standing in the rain with the small crowd still watching him. As people slowly left, giving Tim dirty looks, he realized his life had just changed forever, all because of one bad decision. He looked at his phone with the cracked screen and saw the time. 6:30 p.m. Less than 15 hours until he had to face Carlos again. Tim barely slept that night. He tossed and turned, thinking about the video Carlos could post at any moment. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the scared look on Princess's face after he kicked her. By morning, Tim felt sick with worry. He got up at 7 a.m., 2 hours before he needed to be at the animal shelter. His apartment was small and messy, but he didn't care. He took a quick shower and put on old jeans and a t-shirt. He didn't know what work he would have to do at the shelter, but he guessed it would be dirty. As Tim walked to the bus stop, his phone buzzed. It was a text from his boss. I heard about what happened in the park yesterday. Someone told me. Don't come in on Monday until we talk. Tim's stomach dropped. The news was already spreading, even without the video going online. He wondered how many people knew. He got on the bus and sat at the back, hoping no one would recognize him. The Oak Street Animal Shelter was a long, low building with a chain-link fence around it. Tim could hear dogs barking inside. A sign on the door said, Open 10 a.m., 6 p.m., but Tim saw people moving around inside. He took a deep breath and knocked. A young woman with bright blue hair opened the door. We're not open yet, she said. I'm here to see Carlos Rodriguez, Tim said. He told me to come at 9. The woman's friendly smile disappeared. Oh, you're the dog kicker. She looked Tim up and down. Carlos told us about you. Come in. Tim followed her inside. The shelter smelled of animals, cleaning products, and wet dog food. Cages lined the walls, filled with dogs of all sizes. Some barked at Tim as he passed. Others cowered in the corners of their cages. The blue-haired woman led Tim to a back room where Carlos was filling food bowls. Princess sat on a chair nearby, watching. When she saw Tim, she jumped down and hid behind Carlos's legs. You came, Carlos said, sounding a little surprised. I wasn't sure you would. I didn't want that video to go online, Tim admitted. Carlos nodded. At least you're honest about why you're here. He pointed to a stack of towels. Mia will show you what to do today. The blue-haired woman, Mia, gave Tim a pair of rubber gloves. You'll be cleaning cages today. Every dog needs a clean cage and fresh water. For the next 4 hours, Tim cleaned dog cages. The work was hard and smelly. Some dogs growled at him. Others seemed afraid. By lunchtime, Tim's back hurt and his hands were sore despite the gloves. During lunch break, Tim sat alone on a bench outside. Carlos came out with 2 sandwiches and gave one to Tim. "Why do you volunteer here?" Tim asked. "You're famous. You could be doing anything on a Saturday." Carlos looked at the shelter. "I grew up with nothing. No money, no nice house, but I had a dog named Rex who loved me no matter what. When I got famous, I wanted to help dogs like Rex." He looked at Tim. "Everyone deserves a second chance. Even you." Tim felt shame wash over him again. "I've never been around animals much," he said. "My parents didn't let me have pets." "That's no excuse for kicking one," Carlos said firmly. "But if you finish the day here and do a good job, I won't post the video." Tim nodded, relief flooding through him. "Thank you." Just then, Mia stuck her head out the door. "Carlos, you better come see this. Someone just dropped off a new dog, and he's in bad shape." Carlos stood up quickly. "Coming." He looked at Tim. "Are you coming too? This is the real work we do here." Tim followed Carlos back inside the shelter. In a small room at the back, Maya was kneeling next to a large cardboard box. Inside was a skinny brown dog with patches of fur missing. The dog was shaking and would not look up. "Someone left him in the box by the door," Mia explained. "No note. Nothing." Carlos knelt down and spoke softly to the dog. "Hey buddy, it's okay. You're safe now." The dog pressed itself against the far side of the box, trying to get away. "He's scared," Carlos said. "Probably been hurt by people before." He looked up at Tim. "This is what happens when people are cruel to animals. They stop trusting humans." Tim felt a lump in his throat. The dog reminded him of himself as a kid, when the bigger boys would pick on him at school. Always afraid, always expecting the worst. "What will happen to him?" Tim asked. "First, we need to get him checked by a vet," Carlos explained. "Then we'll clean him up, feed him, and help him learn to trust again. It takes time." Mia brought a soft blanket and some dog treats. "Can you drive him to Dr. Parker's office?" She said she could see him right away. Carlos nodded. "Tim, you're coming with me. I want you to see this whole process." Tim didn't argue. He helped Carlos carefully move the dog, still in the box, to Carlos's car. It was a fancy sports car, but Carlos didn't seem to care that the dirty box might mess up the seats. At the vet's office, Dr. Parker was waiting for them. She was an older woman with kind eyes behind glasses. She spoke gently to the scared dog. "Let's see what we have here," she said, slowly reaching into the box. The dog growled softly. "It's okay to be scared," Dr. Parker told the dog. "But we need to check you out." It took almost an hour for Dr. Parker to examine the dog. She had to move very slowly and carefully. Tim and Carlos waited in the exam room the whole time. "He's about 2 years old," Dr. Parker finally said. "He's undernourished, has fleas, and some old scars that suggest he was beaten. But nothing is broken, and he should recover fully with good care." Carlos nodded. "We'll take care of him." Dr. Parker gave them medicine for the fleas and special food for undernourished dogs. As they were leaving, she stopped Tim. "I haven't seen you at the shelter before," she said. Before Tim could answer, Carlos said, "Tim is learning about animal care. He's had some wrong ideas about animals in the past." Dr. Parker seemed to understand. "Well, education is the best cure for ignorance," she said. On the drive back to the shelter, the dog seemed a little calmer. Once, he even sniffed at Tim's hand when Tim put it near the box. "He might be starting to trust," Carlos said. "That's a good sign." Tim looked at the dog. What will you name him? Carlos thought for a moment. How about Chance? Because that's what he's getting now. Back at the shelter, they set up a quiet kennel for Chance. Tim helped prepare a soft bed, fresh water, and the special food Dr. Parker had given them. As they worked, Carlos's phone rang. He answered it, and his face grew serious. I have to go, he said after hanging up. Emergency at home. He looked at Tim. Can you stay with Chance? He should have someone familiar nearby. Mia will be here too. Tim was shocked. Carlos was trusting him to stay with a vulnerable dog. Yes, Tim said. I'll stay. After Carlos left, Tim sat on the floor near Chance's kennel, talking softly to the scared dog. Something had changed inside Tim. This wasn't just about avoiding the video anymore. He wanted to help. Tim sat near Chance's kennel for hours. The dog stayed in the back corner, watching Tim with nervous eyes. Tim talked softly, telling Chance about his own life, his job, and even about kicking Princess. I made a big mistake, Tim told the dog. I was angry about my own problems, and I hurt someone who did nothing wrong. Just like whoever hurt you. They were probably angry about something else too. Mia brought Tim a sandwich and checked on Chance. You're doing good, she told Tim. Just being calm near him helps him see that not all humans are scary. As the day went on, Chance slowly moved closer to the front of the kennel. By evening, he was eating small bits of food from a bowl Tim held out. Each tiny step felt like a big win. Around 8 p.m., Carlos returned to the shelter. He looked tired, but smiled when he saw Tim still there with Chance. How's our new friend doing? Carlos asked. Better, I think, Tim said. He ate a little, and he's not shaking as much. Carlos watched as Tim offered Chance more food. The dog took it and quickly moved back, but not as far as before. You stayed the whole time, Carlos said. You could have left after I did. Mia wouldn't have stopped you. Tim shrugged. I wanted to stay. I told Chance I would. Carlos nodded, a new look of respect in his eyes. My emergency was about Princess, he said. She wasn't feeling well. The vet thinks she was more upset by yesterday than I realized. Tim felt the guilt come back. I'm sorry. Is she okay? She will be, Carlos said. She just needs rest. He sat down next to Tim. I want to show you something. Carlos pulled out his phone and opened a video. It showed him in the ring, fighting a much bigger opponent. Carlos was losing badly. His eye was swollen, and he was bleeding from a cut on his head. This was 5 years ago, Carlos explained. I was getting beaten badly. Everyone thought I would lose. In the video, Carlos suddenly changed his approach. Instead of trying to hit harder, he became more patient, moving carefully and looking for openings. I was angry at first, Carlos said. Angry that I was losing. But anger made me sloppy. Once I calmed down, I could think clearly. The video showed Carlos winning the fight with a surprise move in the final round. That's the day I learned that controlling your anger is more important than being the strongest, Carlos said. I think you're learning that too. Tim nodded, understanding why Carlos was sharing this. I'd always had trouble with my temper, he admitted. But seeing what it did to Princess, and now seeing Chance, I want to be better. Carlos put away his phone. The shelter needs volunteers on weekends, people who can sit with the scared dogs, like you did today with Chance. Tim looked up, surprised. You want me to come back? If you want to, Carlos said. I won't post the video either way. You've shown me enough today. Before Tim could answer, his phone buzzed. It was another text from his boss. Heard from a friend you were at the animal shelter all day with Carlos Rodriguez. Is this true? Call me. Tim showed Carlos the message. Word travels fast, Tim said. Carlos smiled. People notice when a famous fighter takes someone to the vet, but maybe that's good. Your boss should know you're trying to make things right. As they got ready to leave the shelter, Tim looked back at Chance one last time. The dog was watching him from the front of the kennel now, not the back. "See you next weekend," Tim said softly to Chance. He had made his decision. 1 month passed. Tim now spent every weekend at the Oak Street Animal Shelter. He had called his boss that night after leaving the shelter and explained everything. To his surprise, his boss was understanding. "Everyone makes mistakes," his boss had said. "It's what you do after that counts." Tim still had his job. In fact, things at work were better now. Tim was calmer, more patient with angry customers. When things went wrong, he thought of Chance and how small steps of progress mattered more than quick fixes. Chance was doing much better too. His fur was growing back, and he had gained weight. He still got scared of loud noises, but he no longer hid when Tim came to his kennel. He even wagged his tail sometimes. Today was a big day. Dr. Parker had said Chance was ready to go into the main dog area instead of his quiet kennel at the back. This meant he could be seen by people who might want to adopt him. "Are you ready for this, buddy?" Tim asked as he put a new blue collar on Chance. The dog licked Tim's hand, something he never would have done a month ago. Carlos came over to them. He and Tim had become friends over the past few weeks. Tim had even been to Carlos's house twice to help with Princess and the 3 other rescue dogs Carlos owned. "The big move, huh?" Carlos said, petting Chance gently. "He looks good. You've done great work with him, Tim." Tim felt proud. "He did all the hard work. I just showed up." "That's half the battle," Carlos said. "Showing up when you say you will, being reliable." They walked Chance to the main area. It was Saturday, and the shelter was full of people looking to adopt. Chance stayed close to Tim, nervous about all the new faces. A little girl with pigtails came up to them. "Can I pet your dog?" she asked Tim. Tim knelt down. "This is Chance. He's a little shy, but you can try. Move slowly and let him smell your hand first." The girl followed Tim's instructions perfectly. To Tim's surprise, Chance sniffed her hand and then let her pet his head. "He's so soft," the girl said. Her mother came over, smiling. "Are you looking to adopt?" Carlos asked the mother. "We are," she said. "My daughter wants a calm dog. We live in an apartment, so we can't have one that barks a lot." "Chance is very quiet," Tim said. "He's been through some hard times, but he's gentle and sweet." The mother looked interested. "Could we spend some time with him?" Tim felt a strange mix of happiness and sadness. He wanted Chance to find a good home, but he had grown attached to the dog. "Sure," Tim said. "I can show you how he likes to be petted and what toys he likes." For the next hour, Tim sat with the family and Chance in a quiet room. He told them everything he had learned about Chance over the past month. The little girl was gentle and patient, just what Chance needed. "We'd like to adopt him," the mother finally said. Tim's heart felt both full and empty at the same time. "That's great," he managed to say. Carlos, who had been watching from the doorway, came in with the adoption papers. As the mother filled them out, the little girl looked at Tim. "Why do you look sad?" she asked. "Aren't you happy Chance is getting a home?" Tim smiled. "I am happy, but I'll miss him." The girl thought for a moment. "You can visit him if you want. We live near the park." "I'd like that," Tim said. After the family left with Chance, Tim sat quietly in the empty room. Carlos came in and sat next to him. "It's always hard to say goodbye," Carlos said. "But that's the goal here, to help them heal and find good homes." Tim nodded. "I know. It's just. Chance changed you," Carlos said. "And you changed him. That's a big deal." He looked at Tim. "We have 3 new dogs coming in tomorrow. They need someone with your patience." Tim looked up. "I'll be here." 6 months had passed since the day Tim kicked Princess in the park. His life was completely different now. He still worked at the office, but he had been promoted to team leader. His boss said his new calm way of handling problems made him perfect for the job. Every weekend, Tim was at the shelter. He had helped 23 dogs find homes. Some had been scared like Chance. Others had been hurt or sick. All of them needed someone patient to help them trust people again. Today was a special day. Carlos had asked Tim to come to his house instead of the shelter. When Tim arrived, he saw news vans and cameras in front of Carlos's big house. "What's going on?" Tim asked as Carlos let him in. "I've been planning something," Carlos said with a smile. "Come out back." Tim followed Carlos through the house to the backyard. It was huge, with a green lawn and trees. In the middle was a large group of people. Tim recognized many of them as families who had adopted dogs he had worked with. A small stage had been set up, with a banner that read Second Chance Foundation. Princess was on the stage, wearing a fancy collar. She ran to Tim when she saw him, no longer afraid. "What is all this?" Tim asked, petting Princess. "It's the launch of my new charity," Carlos explained. "The Second Chance Foundation will help animal shelters across the country, and I want you to help run it." Tim's eyes went wide. "Me? But I don't know anything about running a charity." "You know about second chances," Carlos said. "That's the most important part." He led Tim to the stage and handed him a microphone. "Tell them your story," Carlos said quietly. Tim looked at all the people watching. He saw Mia and Dr. Parker. He saw the little girl who had adopted Chance, with Chance sitting happily by her side. The dog looked healthy and confident now. Tim took a deep breath. "6 months ago, I was angry at the world," he began. "I took that anger out on an innocent dog. It was the worst mistake of my life, but it led to the best changes." As Tim told his story, he saw people nodding. Some had tears in their eyes. When he finished, everyone clapped. Carlos stepped up to the microphone next. "We all make mistakes," he said. "What matters is what we learn from them." Tim learned to be patient and kind. The dogs he's helped have learned to trust again. We can all learn from that. After the speeches, a woman from a TV station wanted to interview Tim. "How does it feel to go from the man who kicked a celebrity's dog to running an animal charity?" she asked. "It feels like a miracle," Tim said honestly. "But it didn't happen overnight. It was a lot of small steps, just like helping a scared dog, one day at a time." Later, when most people had left, Tim and Carlos sat on the porch. Princess was asleep at their feet, and Carlos' other dogs were playing in the yard. "I never posted that video," Carlos said. "Did you know that?" Tim looked surprised. "I thought you deleted it after I came to the shelter that first day." Carlos shook his head. "I kept it, but I never shared it. I wanted to see what you would do without the threat hanging over you." "And?" Tim asked. "And you kept showing up, even when you didn't have to," Carlos said. "That says a lot about who you really are." Tim thought about the angry man he had been 6 months ago, kicking out at a small dog because of his own problems. That person felt like a stranger now. "Sometimes the worst moment of your life can lead to the best path," Tim said. Carlos nodded. "My coach used to say, a true fighter isn't someone who never falls. It's someone who gets back up and tries to be better." Tim looked out at the yard where Chance was playing with his new family. The scared dog in the box was gone, replaced by a happy, healthy pet. Tim felt the same way about himself. "Thank you," Tim said to Carlos. "Not just for not posting the video, for showing me a better way to live." Carlos smiled. "That's what second chances are all about. Now let's go plan how we're going to help even more dogs." Tim followed his friend inside, ready for this new chapter of his life. The path that had started with his worst mistake had led to his greatest purpose. 1 year after the launch of the Second Chance Foundation, Tim stood in front of the new building. It was a large one-story place with bright windows and a green yard behind it. A big sign with paw prints showed the foundation's name. This was the grand opening day of their first full-time rescue center. "Hard to believe it all started with a kick," said Carlos, standing next to Tim. Tim nodded. "I think about that every day." The Second Chance Foundation had grown quickly. Carlos's fame helped them raise money. Tim's story touched people's hearts. Together, they had helped 500 dogs find homes in just 1 year. Tim now worked full-time as the foundation's manager. He had left his office job 6 months ago when the foundation got enough money to pay him. It was less money than before, but Tim was happier than he had ever been. "The news crews are here," Carlos said, pointing to vans pulling up. "Ready to talk to them." Tim straightened his tie. "Ready." As cameras set up, Tim looked around at all they had built. There were 20 outdoor play areas for dogs. Inside were clean, large kennels. The building also had rooms for training, medical care, and meeting families who wanted to adopt. "This is way better than that small shelter where we started," said Nia, who now worked with Tim full-time too. Her blue hair was now purple, but her smile was the same. The mayor of the city arrived for the ribbon cutting. After short speeches, Carlos handed the big scissors to Tim. "You should do it," Carlos said. "This was your vision." Tim cut the ribbon as everyone clapped. Cameras flashed, and people cheered. Then something caught Tim's eye in the crowd. A familiar brown dog was wagging his tail. "Chance," Tim said in surprise. The little girl who had adopted Chance waved at Tim. She was taller now, and Chance looked even healthier than before. "We came to say thank you," the girl's mother said. "Chance has been the perfect dog for our family." Chance remembered Tim. He pulled on his leash until the girl let him go to Tim. The dog jumped up, licking Tim's face as Tim knelt down to pet him. A reporter saw this and came over. "Is there a story here?" she asked. Tim smiled. "This is Chance. He was one of the first dogs I helped after I learned my lesson." The reporter looked interested. "What lesson was that?" Tim looked at Carlos, who nodded encouragingly. "I used to be an angry person," Tim explained. "I took my problems out on others. One day I kicked a small dog that got in my way. It happened to be Carlos' dog." The reporter's eyes went wide. "And he didn't beat you up?" Tim laughed. "No, he did something much more powerful. He gave me a chance to be better, just like we give these dogs a chance." After the grand opening, people toured the new center. 10 dogs were adopted that very day. Tim helped match each dog with the right family, using all he had learned. At the end of the long day, Tim sat on a bench in the quiet yard. Only a few dogs remained in the kennels. They would find homes soon. Carlos sat down next to Tim. "A reporter asked me an interesting question today," he said. "What was that?" Tim asked. "She asked if I would have started this foundation if you hadn't kicked Princess that day." Carlos looked thoughtful. "I told her probably not. Sometimes good things come from bad beginnings." Tim thought about the strange path his life had taken. "I'm not glad I kicked Princess," he said, "but I'm thankful every day for what happened after." Carlos nodded. "That's why we named it Second Chance. Everyone deserves one, dogs and people." As the sun set, Tim and Carlos walked around the center, checking on the remaining dogs. Each one had a story, abandoned, hurt, or lost. But each one also had a future, thanks to a mistake and the surprising road to making it right. "Tomorrow we get 3 new dogs from the city shelter," Tim said. "And the work continues," Carlos replied. Tim smiled. The worst 5 seconds of his life, that angry kick in the park, had led to the best years of his life. He could never have imagined where that path would lead. Sometimes the biggest mistakes open the door to the greatest purposes. And sometimes, when you kick a dog owned by a celebrity fighter, you don't get a black eye. You get a new life. 2 years after Tim's life-changing mistake, the Second Chance Foundation faced its biggest test yet. A major storm had hit a city 50 miles away. The local animal shelter there was flooded, and 60 dogs needed a safe place to go. "Can we take them all?" Maya asked during the emergency meeting. Her purple hair was now green, and she was in charge of the kennel area. Tim looked at the floor plans of their building. "We have room for maybe 20 dogs, but 60. He shook his head. I don't see how. Carlos was on a video call from another city. He was there for a big fight, the money from which would help fund the foundation. What if we ask the community for help? Carlos suggested. Foster homes until we figure something out. Tim nodded slowly. That could work. We'd need a lot of people to step up quickly. Tim went on the local news that evening. He told the story of the flooded shelter and asked for help. These dogs have already lost their homes once, he said. They shouldn't have to lose their safety too. By morning, the foundation had received 300 calls from people wanting to help. Tim and Mia worked nonstop to match dogs with temporary homes. Dr. Parker checked each dog before they went out to make sure they were healthy. One dog, however, wouldn't let anyone near him. He was a big black dog with a scar across his face. The workers from the flooded shelter said his name was Shadow, and he had been found chained up behind an empty house a month ago. He doesn't trust people, they explained. No one has been able to touch him yet. Tim looked at Shadow in his cage. The dog growled when anyone came close. His eyes showed fear, not anger, but most people couldn't tell the difference. I'll work with him, Tim decided. He can stay at my house. Mia looked worried. Are you sure? He seems dangerous. Tim thought of Princess, the little dog he had kicked 2 years ago. He thought of Chance, the scared dog who now had a loving family. He's not dangerous, Tim said. He's scared. There's a big difference. Getting Shadow into a travel cage was hard. It took Tim 3 hours of sitting quietly nearby, talking softly and offering treats. Finally, Shadow allowed Tim to put a leash on him, though he still kept his distance. At Tim's small house, Tim set up a quiet corner for Shadow with a soft bed, water, and food. He didn't try to pet the dog or get too close. He just went about his normal life, letting Shadow watch and learn that Tim was not a threat. 3 days passed. Shadow ate only when Tim wasn't looking. He growled if Tim came too close, but Tim noticed small changes. Shadow watched him with curiosity now, not just fear. On the 4th night, Tim was woken by a loud crash. A tree branch had fallen through his kitchen window during a storm. When Tim ran to see what happened, he found glass everywhere. What surprised him was Shadow. The big dog was barking at the broken window, standing between it and Tim, as if protecting him. It's okay, boy, Tim said softly. It's just a branch. For the first time, Shadow let Tim touch him, just a quick pat on the head. It was a small thing, but Tim knew it was a huge step for the scared dog. The next day, Carlos came back from his fight. He had won, which meant more money for the foundation. He stopped by Tim's house to see how Shadow was doing. Any progress? Carlos asked. Tim told him about the window and Shadow's protective behavior. He's starting to trust, Tim said. It just takes time. Carlos watched Shadow, who was still keeping his distance but no longer growling. Reminds me of someone else I know, Carlos said with a smile, looking at Tim. Over the next week, all 60 dogs from the flooded shelter found places to stay. Most went to foster homes, but 15 came to the foundation. The community had donated food, beds, and toys. 3 local vets offered free care. As for Shadow, he made slow but steady progress. He now ate while Tim was in the room. He sometimes sat near Tim while Tim watched TV. One night, he even put his head on Tim's foot while Tim was reading. I think he's ready to meet potential families, Maya said when she visited. But Tim had been thinking. His house had felt empty before Shadow came. Now it felt like a home. Actually, Tim said, I think he's already found his family. Mia grinned. The man who once kicked a dog now can't bear to be without one. Life is funny that way. At the foundation's next public event, Tim shared his story again, this time with Shadow by his side. The big dog still didn't like crowds, but he trusted Tim to keep him safe. 2 years ago, I made a terrible mistake, Tim told the audience. I hurt an innocent animal because I couldn't control my anger. That led me here, to the best work of my life." He looked down at Shadow, who pressed against his leg. "And now, I'm learning that helping others heal can heal you too." Carlos, standing nearby with Princess in his arms, smiled knowingly. The journey that had begun with a kick in the park had come full circle. Now Tim wasn't just helping dogs find second chances, he was giving himself one too, every single day.